Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So born today, April 12th, 1862, Julius Rosenwald. And he died at age 69 in 1932. He's an American businessman and philanthropist. And I'll shorten the story here a little bit, but he was a clothier, and he learned the clothing business in New York City. And he decided after the Civil War, there was a number of companies that started to standardize sizings. So small, medium, large for people extra large. And I guess they must have used, I didn't research it fully, but they said that they used, I guess, the bodies or whatever from the Civil War to standardize clothing. So this would be what a medium was, or this would be what a small was. And I think they had to do it because they were making uniforms or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
correct, yeah.
So he decided that his company that he had, Rosenwald Clothiers, with this other guy, Wheel, that they would make this standardized clothing and sell it to stores. But he was going to go to the Midwest to do it. So they left New York, went to the Midwest to open a factory, and also wanted to service a lot of the farmers and Midwestern business out there that didn't necessarily have access to a lot of the goods you had on the East or West Coast. So he teamed up, he started selling things to Sears and Roebuck. And Sears and Roebuck, I didn't realize, was a watch company initially.
Before the hardware and everything else, right?
Right. So he would sell clothes and so forth to Sears and Roebuck. And then in 1893, they said that there was a panic of 1893. I don't know exactly what that was. I probably should have done more research. But there was a panic of 1893. A lot of businesses collapsed. A lot of things went under. And Sears and Roebuck owed Rosenwald an awful lot of money and they couldn't pay for the clothing that he had provided. So rather than them not paying, Roebuck retired from Sears. Sears offered half of the company to Rosenwald and another guy that also sold clothing. So they got half the value of Sears. So they kept the name Sears and Roebuck, but so Sears and this guy Rosenwald, Julius Rosenwald, came on board, and at that time the company they thought was worth about $150,000. So from 1895 though to 1907, Rosenwald became vice president and treasurer of the company, and they grew sales from 750,000 to upwards of 50 million.
Isn't that something? Think about that. That's a geometric scaling. It's not even
Huge. And they said it happened because Rosenwald's management philosophy was to diversify their product lines. So they brought in a number of dry goods, consumer durables, drugs, hardware, furniture, and they said nearly anything a farm household could desire. And of course, I love the Sears. Weren't they the kit homes?
Our house is based on one. I don't know if it's exactly one, but the upstate house is based on a Sears Craftsman house from the 1920s. Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are great. And he became friends with Henry Goldman and also his partner Sachs, which figures in later on. But they helped him. So they helped him do a stock offering for Sears. The valuation of the company at that time was about $40 million in 1906. And Sears ended up getting sick, and he retired. And then Rosenwald wanted to take their wealth and their money and actually do more philanthropy. And so he retired as well. And his friend Paul Sachs of Goldman Sachs, we had a friend Goldman and friend Sachs, introduced him to William Baldwin and Booker T. Washington, and talked about the plight of African Americans in this country, particularly with education, and about how the African American schools were not up to par. They weren't getting the books, they weren't getting the teachers, they weren't getting any of the things that they would need to be properly educated in this country, and it was a real issue. And as I was reading this, I thought, my God, this was 1912. You know, this was going on, and we're still having these conversations today.
I'm showing the picture of the book jacket for Julius Rosenwald. It's a biography, I guess, by Peter Scully. And the subhead reads, "The man who built Sears Roebuck and advanced the cause of black education in the American South." And then to the right, Tim provided a sepia picture of him in the middle of a row of young schoolgirls, black schoolgirls, and they're all wearing white outfits, and each one has a letter like ROS, like for Rosenwald to spell his name, and then he's just quietly standing there like proud of his school, I guess, right?
Right. So Booker T. Washington was leading the Tuskegee Institute, and so one of the first things that Rosenwald did is he endowed that school with enough money so that Washington could spend his time just actually working on developing education, not worried so much about fundraising, as you know, with so many private institutions with all the fundraising that goes into it. So over the years, he had given over $70 million to help address the state of African American education in the country, and actually the insufficient education that was going on, as we talked about, inadequate buildings and books. And the one interesting thing about him, so he did that for all of the money he had endowed. Most of it went to helping uplift the African American community and or other minority communities around Chicago and in the South. And the one interesting thing they mentioned, and I guess I didn't think about this. So when you endow a school or you endow a scholarship or something, the hope is that money will last in perpetuity, and you just spend the principal, or I'm sorry, you just spend the interest that you would make. And in this case, he wanted the money spent. So it wasn't the sort of thing where he gave $70 million and they'd spend $7 million or $700,000, whatever, a year. He wanted the money spent. So all the money was spent right up front to go help these causes that were important to him. Then there was a documentary that was done in 2015 called Rosenwald, the remarkable story of a Jewish partnership with African American communities, and it won a few awards. But he's one of those people, I think, that again, you don't hear much about, and I wondered where his philanthropic
or his desires to give back like that.
His desires came from, but it was who he met, and it was the fact that Paul Sachs introduced him. When he said, I want to do more philanthropy, and calls his friend Paul Sachs, what should I do? And Paul Sachs says, you really should look at what's going on in the South with the African American population and education. And that's where he devoted his time and his energies to. So good for him.
I think it's a fantastic business birthday. And I like the question you just posed, which might be interesting to examine if we happen to read a biography of him, is where did he find, so acquaintances and business relations and people that peers would direct him towards, hey, this is a need that really would use your expertise and your money and your time. But you have to want to do it. You can't just be told that it's there. So he probably had a passion to try to make things equal. It's interesting. I think it's a great business birthday.